On this last edition of District Directions, we'll be joined by Mrs. Connie Blaney with a district update, Dr. John Clinton and guests, and a special interview by Mrs. Connie Blaney discussing the public forum for the new superintendent. Stay tuned.
Welcome back to District Directions. I'm Lawrence Bothwell, and here with me is Amanda Patterson. This is our last show. Throughout this year, we have made a collective 30 shows. It just really doesn't seem like it.
No, I guess it's true about what they say about time flying when you're having fun.
Yeah. First up is Miss Connie Blaney with her last district update.
Good evening. The Norman Board of Education is conducting 5 public forums for all residents of Norman Public Schools. 3 were held last week on May 6th and May 8th. The other 2 forums are this week on Tuesday, May 13th and Thursday, May 15th to seek input on hiring the new superintendent for Norman Public Schools, Mike Bumgarner, president of the board, has announced. This will be an opportunity for everyone to share their ideas about what they want to see in our new superintendent, such as characteristics, leadership style, and other traits. Some of the characteristics that they will be looking at are their credentials, role in the community, instructional leadership, school finance, management style, building program, employee relationship, personal characteristics, goals and objectives of the superintendent, and other characteristics and traits. The forums will be held from 7 p.m. to 8:30 p.m. The dates and the locations of the 2 remaining forums are Tuesday, May 13th at Monroe Elementary Gymnasium and Thursday, May 15th at Eisenhower Elementary Cafeteria. 2 school board members will be attending each public forum. The board members plan to seek certain questions from their audience, and there will be time allotted for questions and discussion from the audience. Mr. Bumgarner said that the public forum is not a time to discuss personal items or any other issue that is not related to choosing a new superintendent. We appreciate the views of our community. This is a very important decision that we will not take lightly. We reassure our community that this will be an orderly transition process with involvement from as many people as possible, Mr. Bumgarner said. The board president said that following the public meetings, the board members will assimilate the information. The board will continue to communicate to the public as plans progress. The Norman Public School Foundation annual fund drive is underway. All donations go towards the endowment. The interest from the endowment goes towards teacher grants for classroom projects and staff development grants. If you would like to donate to the school foundation, please send your donation in care of Norman Public School Foundation, 131 South Flood Avenue, Norman, Oklahoma, 73069. On Monday, May 12th, we honored our employees that are retiring from the school district and also employees with at least 15 years of experience at our annual service recognition reception held at the Holiday Inn. We thank Jan Moran and Southwestern Bell Telephone Company for helping support this reception. Our retirees were Dr. Judy Ford Barber, Jeanette Bowman, Jim Knatzer, Evelyn Friedman, Marjorie June Gallagher, Elizabeth Hedrick, Sally Kennedy, Rosalie Cromer, Patsy Lee, Carlotta Malden, Dr. Walter Val McClanahan, Sandra Potts, Dr. Edna Schoaf, Jim Smith, Carl Serber, Cotton Wade, and Donna Westgate. We wish all of these retirees good luck in their future endeavors. Congratulations to Dr. Dottie Caldwell for recently getting her doctorate degree and for receiving the State Superintendent's Arts Excellence Award for Elementary Principal of the Year. Dr. Caldwell is principal at Jackson Elementary. We're very proud of her recent statewide award. This is a busy time of year for all of our schools, the end-of-the-year music programs, student award ceremonies, and concerts. May 14th is Norman Public Schools Band Orchestra Directors Reunion at the Holiday Inn at 7 p.m. Final exams at Norman High School will be May 19th through May 22nd. The All Sports Banquet for the high school is May 18th at the Postal Training Center. Baccalaureate for seniors is also Sunday, May 18th at 8 p.m. at McFarland's Memorial United Methodist Church. Senior graduation is May 22nd at Lloyd Noble Center at 7 p.m. Our next school board meeting will be held on Monday, May 19th at 7 p.m. in the Administrative Services Curriculum Center, 131 South Flood. The public is invited to attend. Public comments are at the beginning of the meeting. If someone would like to address the board, he or she must fill out a card before the meeting begins. Cards are located on the table in the meeting room. For Norman Public Schools, I'm Connie Blaney.
Thank you, Mrs. Blaney. Next is Dr. John Clinton, who is discussing more about the Norman High split next year and how that affects the band programs with guests Brad Benson and Brenda Wagner.
Welcome to Focus on the Fine Arts. I'm John Clinton, the Director of Fine Arts for the public school. We're glad to have you here today. We have in our final show two guests that I would like for you to meet that many of you probably already know. This is Brad Benson and this is Brenda Wagner. Now, Brad and Brenda, you are currently, we're talking about what you're doing right now, not what's going to next year. What is your job this year, Brad?
Right now I do band and orchestra at Norman High School.
Mm-hmm. Good. And Brenda?
I do 2 elementary schools. I team teach at Irving Middle School, and I'm the assistant orchestra.
Very good. So you guys have been busy this past year, haven't you?
Yes, this has been a busy year trying to keep the focus on our students this year as well as getting ready for next year.
Very good. Now, you guys have been around Norman at least for a couple of years. Can you remember how long you've been around, Brad?
What's going to look worse if I say 17 and she says 2 or 3?
Well, actually, she can go back further than that, I think.
Yeah, that is true.
Right. That's right.
I was lucky enough, I believe, about 17 years ago to be hired by you
That's
to
right.
teach here.
And
And orchestra.
And you started off with the beginning strings.
Yes, I did.
Absolutely.
Yes, I did.
Because I know we have history with my daughter. You taught her. You were
and
beginning.
she's doing well anyway.
She's doing fine. As a matter of fact, she called the other day from Syracuse and asked if we could send her cello.
Oh,
yeah,
great.
She hadn't used it in about a year now, but she's real excited because she's found a quartet of people who want to just play for their own amazement. So it's a really nice thing. So see, you did good
Well,
work.
that's great to hear.
Nice job. Brenda, you have been around teaching for how long?
This is my 7th year teaching.
7th year, and before that you were in Oklahoma City?
I was in Oklahoma City for 5 years
That's
before
right.
that.
And before that?
I'm a graduate of Norman High.
Yeah, that's terrific. It's nice to have you here all of this time, but also know that you felt good enough about coming back to a school that was your alma mater.
Oh, wonderful place.
Good. Now, next year,
Yes.
big things are happening next year. Now, you're both going to be working with the band and the orchestra and with the orchestra, and your jobs are very similar to what you are doing currently. But things have changed a great deal, and then you'll be working with kids in grade 9 through 12. Tell me how that's going to work, Brenda and Brad, for the orchestra. Tell me a little bit about
The
that.
orchestra will be divided. The 9th graders will be by themselves in their own class, more the concert orchestra. And first semester it'll be just the strings every day. Second semester we'll add wind players every other day. In grades 10 through 12 they'll be together. They'll have much of the same setup we've had this year, where we've had strings on one day and then the next day the winds will join us.
Great. Now they're going to be on a block schedule, just like Norman
Right,
High School is. Will
right.
they be meeting every day, every other day? How that's
The
going to work?
strings will be every day, and every other day the winds will come in and join the strings.
Very good. And you have the band and orchestra. You'll be working with Brad. Let's talk about specifically with the band.
There will be a 9th grade band class, and it will be a separate entity, and we hope that it can function as a group with an identity of its own, and that it will be a performing group, but also a group to hone some skills that they need to prepare to go on to the 10, 11, and 12 band, which will meet a separate class period. on a daily basis. The ninth graders will do some marching the first semester. The 10th, 11th, and 12th grade class will do quite a bit. And we'll have a camp
Every day.
Yes, they will. Before school starts, we'll go ahead and have our camp. But one thing that will be different this year, and in a way really good, is that we're going to combine with Norman High and Norman North together, and we'll do football games together, and the students will get to be, at least for that part of the year, together again.
Very
next
good.
year.
Now, how are you going to work this? Are you going to have one summer marching camp?
Yes.
Okay.
The current plan is to do this all at once.
And that will start, what, a week or so before?
It's usually 2 weeks.
2 weeks
prior
before school.
to school starting.
And the kids will be responsible for all day?
Well, it's not
sessions?
really. We try to avoid the hottest part of the afternoon.
Smart move,
But
yes.
Morning and usually early evening rehearsals.
Okay, good. And what kind of things will you be doing in that marching camp?
Well, at first we go through fundamentals, and sometimes we even call in an expert from the outside, so that it can be maybe a new point of view for the students as well as the directors for the first couple of rehearsals, and then we move from fundamentals right into what we're going to perform at the first game, which usually is not far away.
No, it's pretty quick, isn't it? Good. And you have, this coming year, a whole lot of students
Yes, we
who
do.
have not marched. It's going to be at least a third larger,
Yes.
people who have never marched. So you'll have a junior class and a sophomore class that have never marched before.
Well, that's true. Had not performed at the high school, but through the mid-highs, they do get some experience, at
Very
least
good.
leading into that. But all of the directors will be working hard to bring everyone along.
But you're going to have a band on the marching field of, what, 200, 220?
Approximately 200 or 200 plus.
Now, I'm trying to picture this also, the visual effect of hunter green, white and silver, and orange and black.
Well, we're trying to picture that too. I do know that 2 members of the committee that selected the uniform were colorblind. I don't know. No. I think, obviously, I really like the Norman High uniform, and I like the committee that did pick the new uniform with students and parents and directors and some other people, and I like those. We are not sure, though, how, when they are put together, how that
Not
really
immediately.
will look.
But it's just for a year.
Yes. Oh,
You
yes.
know, and then maybe one game
And
a
it's,
year after that.
this is mainly for the kids.
Right.
It's not about, whether a uniform matches for this
Absolutely.
year.
Well, it's going to be interesting to combine those two, because at Norman High School North, let's talk about facilities for a little bit. Brenda, have you been into the, not finished yet, but the new facilities for Norman High School North for band and orchestra?
It's been quite a while since I've gotten to go in. It's now
Yeah.
the hard hat area.
Yes, right.
So you can't get in, but the last time I was there, the walls were all up.
Good.
The ceiling was not all on
Yeah.
yet. So hopefully they're moving along.
How does it look in terms of size?
It looks wonderful.
Does it? Looks like it'll be able
Yes.
to accommodate that many students. I mean, you're going to have a string orchestra in the 10, 11, 12 of about how many students, would you guess?
Right now, we look to have about 63 strings.
63 strings. And then you add winds to that. That takes a significant amount of room. You may know, and this is something on the aside, but how large is the Oklahoma City Philharmonic string section? About? Not exactly.
Approximately, probably in the 65 to 70. It depends on what literature we'd be playing.
Yeah. So people can get a view of that stadium, the stage at Civic Center, and add winds to to all of that, and picture what kind of room it takes to be able to pull something like that together.
A lot.
Good. And an orchestra of about 70 kids takes about the same amount of room as over a 100-piece
I'd say yes.
band.
Easily.
To get that done.
Yes.
Brenda, what kind of things are going to be done with the 9th grade orchestra that's going to help them prepare for being in the 10, 11, and 12?
We'll go back to a lot of the fundamentals also for them, and just keep pulling them along and literature and things to prepare them for that, and they'll function on their own.
Good. So they'll be doing concerts.
Right.
They'll be going to contests?
Contests.
Yeah, just like everybody else?
Solo and ensemble contest, large group contest.
So it's going to be pretty much even all the way through. No one has
Right.
to worry about being shorted.
They will not be
And well,
short.
very good. They'll have plenty to go on. Now let's talk just a little bit about what happened this year. You guys just got back from a trip, at least not long ago, where you took some of the band and orchestra students down into the Texas area. Can you tell us a little bit about what that trip was like?
Well, for my part of it, I think we were a little hesitant about this trip because it was shorter than normal and a little different than our normal trip. But educationally, I think this was probably one of the best trips if you're not going to perform at a national convention like Midwest or MENC that we've ever taken. And I'd just like to congratulate Ms. Wagner and Mr. Davison for their work on the trip and getting it done. I know some of the kids want to stay longer, and we did spend one night, but the things that we did, it was very, very educational and enjoyable, and you might want to elaborate more.
Yeah, tell me about what happened in education. Where'd you go? What'd you do?
Well, for our education, we went to University of North Texas and spent an afternoon there and got a chance to sit in on their orchestra rehearsal. And they have a world-renowned conductor who is also a famous violinist. And they got to hear them rehearse Beethoven's Ninth Symphony, major work. It was
Great.
exciting.
I bet it was also.
And we then went to the computer music studio and had a presentation on how to
Wonderful.
put together computer music, which was great for the kids. They had a little trouble. It wasn't the kind of music they were used to listening to.
I'm sure it wasn't.
And their questions, they kept asking if there was ever a melody or... It was very good for them
Right.
to hear that.
Good.
And then we had a chance to have the conductor from the orchestra come and speak to the kids,
Wonderful.
which was just terrific.
So Mr. Brusiloff did his normally wonderful, personable self.
Yes.
That's great.
He
Well, I'm
charmed
glad to
them
hear.
all.
I'm sure he did. I'm sure he did very well. And so you were there for a couple of days.
Yes.
And then what did
yes.
you do? Did you do something just for fun?
Oh, yes, we did. I think probably the most fun we had was at medieval times where you're supposed to eat with your hands. The drummers normally do this. I didn't understand. No, just kidding. However, I did notice the adults spent most of their time in preparation to go to medieval times trying to figure out how to smuggle in silverware so that we could eat with that. It was really neat. And actually, we have several students in band and orchestra who participate in that kind of thing in the Norman area. And it was really interesting for them and their viewpoint and what we did there. Our students, I think, really had a great time.
Good.
And learned a lot also. And it was just a little more relaxed
Yes.
than a trip where you have to run in and perform, although there are benefits from doing that.
Sure.
But in that relaxation maybe had let us all have a better time and actually learn more.
Sometimes the point is to make sure that you're learning. If that happens to be best accomplished by performing, wonderful.
Yes.
If it happens to
I
be
agree.
best accomplished by listening to someone else perform, rehearse, speak to you about a variety of different things, that can be better. And in fact, listening to the rehearsals, to me, is the most outstanding thing that happens.
Wow.
Because you learn so much from what everybody else is doing and what's going on. Now, we also have a concert this week that's coming up that you're going to be recognizing some people, and I want to mention that just very quickly to the audience that you're going to have at the orchestra performance, which just happened Tuesday night, May the 13th. Yes, we had Jackie Dillon and the infamous John Clinton.
John Clinton.
I'd like
Do
to
not leave him out.
mumble that out. Conduct as well as yourselves, and Karen LeBlanc was featured as the soloist for the orchestra that evening. And then you're going to have, or have had, Harry Haynes on May the 15th. I'm getting my dates closer here. May the 15th with Harry Haynes, James Middleton, John Morgan, and Bill Robinson. And we hope that a lot of people have been involved in coming to that or seeing those performances. And then we had the reception on Wednesday night, the 14th. Or excuse me, is that correct?
Yes.
Wednesday night, the
Yes, it
14th.
is.
Boy, there's so many dates going on here. I'm
There
about to get lost in what I'm doing. And with that, you guys submitted music to be played on the Norman Instrumental Music Parents Association CD.
Yes.
And I might want to mention that because that's going to be ready to be distributed on, it appears to be, May the 12th if everything holds together. Do you remember what piece that you submitted to be performed on that and played in that particular CD?
For the band, I believe it was Mars, Gustav Holst, and the orchestra was Bach. I think.
Chorale
Oh,
Prelude.
the Chorale Prelude.
Yes,
The Bach
beautiful
/
piece.
Ormandy.
Right.
Yeah,
Yes.
wonderful
Right.
piece of music. Well, I had a chance to hear the CD in its pre-production stage, and it's wonderful. The high school band, the high school orchestra both sound magnificent. You guys have done a great job with them. And that CD is going to be available starting May the 12th, and they can get it at concerts. They can get it by calling the school sites, or they can do it by calling one of the representatives from the Norman Instrument and Music Parents Association that they've all received information on in their newsletter. So we hope that they all are involved in that. I believe the CDs are going to be $12 a piece, and it features all of the music of this past year, one from every school and every organization within that school, as well as Dr. Haynes' piece, Mr. Morgan, Ms. Dillon, Dr. Middleton, Mr. Robinson. All those pieces are going to be there also, so that we hope that people will get out there and be involved in that. Well, I know you guys have got lots of decisions to make, lots of things to do. And I'm impressed that you are remaining as calm as you are.
I think, if I may, one of the reasons why we remain calm is because you're there to help and guide us, and we appreciate that. And sometimes we get to vent our frustrations or get to ask questions of other people, and we appreciate that.
That's great. Well, it's going to be a good year next year.
Oh, I think so.
I mean, the normal speech is, no, we may not have enough money, no, we may not have enough faculty, we may not have the schedule just right, but it's going to be okay because we've got the kids and we've got the teachers that we have here who are wonderful, and we have the community support that make the arts a wonderful place to be in Norman schools. So thank you both for being part of this show, and good luck to you for the remainder of this year and for next year as well.
Thank you.
And thank you for joining us as we have focused on the fine arts in the Norman Public Schools.
Thank you, Dr. Clinton. And now it's time for a special interview. Ms. Connie Blaney will be discussing the new public forum for the new superintendent.
I'm Connie Blaney, Public Relations Director for Norman Schools, and welcome to District Directions. I have with me Linda Sexton, Vice President of the Board of Education. Hi, Linda.
Hi.
Glad you're here with us today. We're in the middle of our process with the 5 public forums that we're having to seek input from our community on who we want or what we'd like to see in a new superintendent, characteristics, traits. How are those forums going?
They're going very well. We're about halfway through. We've heard a lot of things from a lot of people, and things are going very well. We're getting a lot of good input.
Good. We still have 2 forums left this week. One will be on Tuesday, and it will be held on May 13th at, on May 13th at Monroe, and the second one will be Thursday, May 15th at Eisenhower. And our superintendent, James Gray, announced that he was going to be retiring and would be retiring in the fall after school starts. And so we're in the process right now, the first step, I guess, of the process of seeking input from the community. What is the purpose of the forums?
Just that, to get input from the community. Of course, as board members, we've never selected a superintendent before, so this is new territory for all of us, and we thought it would be a good idea to start with looking at what the community wanted, if there were different directions or different kinds of leadership, kind of what this community thought it wanted in a superintendent.
Okay, and if I would attend a forum, and we invite the community to attend these last 2 forums, they start at 7 o'clock and they end at 8:30, what would I expect if I came to one of these forums?
We just have a kind of free-flowing conversation about traits and characteristics and qualifications of a superintendent. I kind of ask people if you could start with the toes and work up, or start with the hair and work down, kind of what are all the kinds of attributes you'd want to see in a superintendent. We refrain from talking about people or recommending names. That's not part of what we're after. We are simply looking at what, if we could create the ideal superintendent for Norman, what would that person look like?
Okay, and what are some of the characteristics that you're asking, and what have been some of the comments so far? Maybe from the 2 forums that you've already hosted, what are you seeing are priorities that we want to see in a new superintendent?
Well, of course, for every person who says we have to have a PhD, there'll be someone else who says the kind of experience and the kind of levels of experience are more important than a PhD, and a master's degree would be fine. And that one is kind of half and half. But then pretty much what I think I'm getting from these forums is that people would like to have a superintendent who is a kind of a public figure. Last night the term super educator came out, someone who understands curriculum issues and someone who can interpret to the community things that are going on in schools and what goals we have for schools.
Okay. Some of the expectations or some of the suggestions that you have on a sheet that they can look at when they come into the room is what are their credentials, and you talked about whether or not they should have a PhD, role in the community, instructional leadership, school finance, management style, building program, what kind of an employee relationship do we want to see in a superintendent, personal characteristics, the goals and objectives. What kind of goals should a superintendent have? And then other characteristics and traits. What kind of an instructional leader were some of the suggestions that you have heard so far?
Well, it goes all the way from someone will suggest we want someone who looks at the research and guides the district through trying new, proven tactics for increasing the way kids learn. And for every person who says that, there'll be someone else who says, no, don't try all that new stuff. Let's stay back with the basics. So it's going to be very difficult to balance, I think, what people want, because obviously people suggest what they personally think is best, and that isn't always going to be the same thing.
Mm-hmm. What about management style? Is there a certain kind of management style that so far some of the people have suggested that we need to see in a superintendent?
Well, so far people have mostly been supportive of the idea of a delegated, facilitating kind of superintendent as opposed to an autocrat. However, people do make the statement that when a tough decision has to be made, or a decision has to be made quickly, that we need someone who has the courage to stand up and say, this is why I think we need to do this, and this is what we need to do.
There was a lot of discussion about role in the community, and what do we need to see as a superintendent in the role in the community, and what have been some of the suggestions so far on the role?
Well, there again, we've had people who said, oh, it's not important to belong to organizations. We want someone who spends lots of time in schools. And then someone else will pop up and say, we need someone who will join clubs, go out to groups, speak, take the school's needs and messages to the community, and in turn, listen to the community and bring responses back to the schools. So we've had, the only thing for sure people seem to want is someone who's out and available. And then people, of course, always talk about having an open door so that parents can come in and talk to the superintendent.
To be accessible.
Mm-hmm.
What about personal characteristics?
Honesty and courage have come up. People have decided a millionaire would be nice, someone who can give a lot of money to the school. The flexibility and I can't think what other personal things there have been, because the personal characteristics are so tied up in some of those other things like management style. You know, someone who's a facilitator and is a flexible person as opposed to someone who, issues orders. Someone who's confident enough to hire experts in other fields. Obviously, a superintendent can't be, totally knowledgeable about school law and totally knowledgeable about school finance and completely abreast of all curricular issues, so that we have to have someone, the community so far has said, we really need someone who also, while they are very knowledgeable about all those things, someone who's willing to hire good people or allow the people who are already there to do, to take over some of those roles, because no one can be the absolute expert at everything.
Okay. One thing about Norman Community is that we like for the community to be involved in the decision process. What if someone cannot attend one of the last two forums this week? What are some other ways that they can communicate to the Board of Education about what kind of characteristics and what they want to see in a superintendent?
The phones are always open at the district level, and they can take messages for us, for the board members. If people can find our names and addresses, of course, they're welcome to call us or write to us at home. But the district address at 131 South Flood, zip code 73069, if letters are addressed to the school board, then they'll be copied to all of us, or if letters are addressed to certain people. If people can't find home addresses and home phone numbers, they're certainly welcome to call the district number or write to the district address and get us information that way.
Okay.
And then, we get stopped at the grocery store, we get stopped out on a walk in the neighborhood, and that's all fine too, because wherever we are is where the people are, and talk to us at a soccer game, talk to us at a t-ball game.
Right.
That'll be fine.
That's great. And what will be the next process after you get all the input from the community? What will be the next process, and do you have a timeline?
We don't exactly have a timeline because we're so new at doing this, but we will sort through all the information we've been given, find some way to make it succinct enough that we can look at it. We're going to have, five-page charts of information to consolidate in some way. Once that's done, we'll look at that, And then the timelines depend if we decide based on the qualifications and characteristics of some of the people we already have in the district, play that off against what the community has told us. If we decide we can bring somebody up from inside the district already, then of course that will be fairly quickly handled. If we decide we need to go on a search, it could take 6 months to 9 months to get the information out and bring, look at things and bring people in. So as far as the timeline goes, that's as close as I can get.
We want to thank Linda Sexton for being with us today. We do encourage the community to give the board members a call. They can either call the board members personally or write to the Board of Education at 131 South Flood Avenue, Norman 73069. Thank you for joining us on District Directions.
Thank you, Mrs. Blaney, and thank you, Dr. Clinton, Mrs. Kramer, Dr. Barber, Dr. Schuller, and Mr. Suba for making District Directions. We sure had fun. And Lawrence and I hope that you all had fun too. For Lawrence Bothwell, I'm Amanda Patterson. Goodbye.